One of the things I like about our group is that we all get together and we talk about things that are new in our practice area, or things that, lessons learned, or I went to this awesome CLE, or I was, researching this and I found this.
There's an instinct that a good patent attorney has about when they read a disclosure that is pure science. How does that translate into what is patentable? What can I get for nice broad claims for my client, and how does that translate into a product? You either sort of have that instinct or you don't. And everybody here's got it. The biotech practice sort of evolved from chemical. Back in the day when it was very early on, it was chemists that were trying to do biotechnology patents. And so I think, it sort of evolved that way. Anything dealing with life sciences, I think you could say, would be one way to put it. Anything involving chemicals, DNA, just life sciences, I think is the best way that I would put it, yeah.
So in the chemical space, John and I in particular do a lot of work with, I would describe it as compositional chemistry, so working in a lot of formulations in a broad type of practices, whether they be drugs, pharmaceuticals, nutraceuticals, compositions for cleaning and sanitizing, so consumer type products. There's a broad variety of that.
Yeah, no, like new composite materials that are useful in football helmets, for example, or composite materials, or like molecular layering to build out like an electrode that that somebody want to ultimately use in like a Tesla. Yeah, so a different very small molecule than Heidi and Cassie deal with in the plant space. Yeah.
So then you would go into more the biotech side, which would be more Cassie and I, where you're talking about DNA, you're talking about things like gene editing, you're talking about transformation, all of that stuff, novel gene sequences, protein sequences, uses of those to engineer bacteria and plants and all kinds of things.
Something I think that each of you touched on a little bit is the uniqueness of how you can draft something particular to, like say the US, for example, but then you have considerations about a different country, or Jill's talking about different, combinations and how different combinations of things are treated. And how they're treated in the United States is different than maybe how they're treated in examination in another country.
So when we work with people, from our clients to our foreign counsel to our staff and our vendors, it's never a one and done and we're looking to get the most we can from this one transaction and then go away. It's more really the long look in establishing a long-term mutually beneficial relationship and helping them achieve their goals too. So I think we take that same approach with our foreign counsel. That's why they're such long-standing relationships.
Well, I think that it stems from how long a patent asset exists. So generally, if you say 20 years from filing, so that that relationship with counsel lasts that long. You can have issues not only the procuring or obtaining the patent, but then enforcing over the life of it. And so needing to stay abreast of those changes that happen in, say, a 20-year span, just I think makes that naturally happen, of cultivate those relationships and then learn about evolutions that happen for all the countries where we're protecting those. I think another thing that's so patent protection is so global that those relationships, we see a lot of our foreign associates, if not yearly, maybe every few years, because we will travel to meet at meetings together where our clients are at and where those associates are meeting. So we actually have met face-to-face with most of the people that we're working with in all countries, which I think helps that relationship develop. And then if we're working internationally with clients, we will certainly go meet with those counsels. So I know we've had occasion to do that over in London and meet with counsel that you'd worked with for a long time.
Yes,
so.
With clients who are more new to getting a patent and understanding what that means, is helping them walk through what the claim language actually means. So for example, if they're drafting it, they want to include, if you're writing a method claim, all the steps and all the details. And so, oh no, you left that out. I want, this, it says this step, but I want to include da-da-da-da-da. And you have to explain to them in a method claim, you don't want it to be long. The longer it is, the more difficult, the more narrow your asset scope is. You need to keep this as short and succinct as possible for us to meet the novelty and non-obviousness standard. So it's helping them back up and say, this is what we're trying to accomplish here. I understand as a scientist, and you're thinking of this as kind of a journal article, you want it to be more descriptive, but that's not the intent.
Also, just from a very basic standpoint, people see a published patent application looks very similar to an issued patent. All the time. They think that that is an issued patent, and it's not. That's a publication that has not been granted by a patent office yet. They almost look identical, right? Because just the claims might be a little different at the end of the day. That is a constant misconception that happens, and it's a very basic one.
I think something that surprises me a lot when you get into examination, particularly in foreign jurisdictions, is how often people are researching very similar things with very similar ideas. Different, but very similar. So you get prior art that's disclosed and picked up in another country, and somebody thinks, man, there's nobody else in the world that's working on this like me. And then it turns out it's like, well, actually, it looks like this research group in Japan was, and they're looking at something very similar. Now, there's ways of crafting around that and addressing that so that you get claim scope that fits you, and I'm sure getting claim scope that fits what they've done. But I always think that's an interesting piece of it. And a little bit of a misconception is that everybody really is looking at a lot of the same stuff, and there's a lot of the same tools that people are trying to solve the same problems with. So.
And that's maybe a challenge that some of our clients face, is that being that the US is now a first to file country, having that urgency with getting your patent filed, but also balancing it with, as we've already mentioned, some of the early stage research where the timing, we can always benefit from more time to research. Researchers always want more time to do additional tests, to test additional theories, but balancing that and us being in the position to advise them of when is the right time to file is something I think we spend a lot of time educating clients on, but it's invaluable in the sense of making the decision at the right time.